create, not a series of accidents, but a work of art. My interest in attention goes back to childhood, when I ran the usual experiments on its effects on behavior. I saw that by focusing on one thing, you could ignore another. If you concentrated on some enjoyable activity, you could make time simultaneously race and stand still. Staying focused on a goal over time might not guarantee you'd achieve it, but was a crucial step in that direction. In midlife, an attention experiment of a different magnitude set me on the path that led to this book. Walking away from the hospital after the biopsy from hell, not just cancer, but a particularly nasty, fairly advanced kind, I had an intuition of a highly unusual blue-white clarity. This disease wanted to monopolize my attention, but as much as possible, I would focus on my life instead. As Samuel Johnson observed, the prospect of hanging wonderfully concentrates the mind. Right from the start, my attention experiment went well. Through many months of chemo, surgery, more chemo, and daily radiation, I mostly stayed focused on taking care of business in the present, suddenly all I could count on, and on the things that matter most and make me feel best. Big ones like my family and friends, spiritual life and work, and smaller ones like movies, walks, and a 6:30 p.m. martini. As a result, I spent very little time and energy on the past or future, or on the suddenly very many things that seemed unimportant or negative. I began to relish corny admonitions to have a good day, and my husband started referring to our house as Harmonia. That's not to say that cancer was the proverbial best thing that ever happened to me, or that I'm glad I had it. It wasn't, and I'm not. Nor was my focusing strategy 100% effective 24/7. There are moments in life when someone hands you a pink slip, perhaps, or can't find your good chemo vein, when you just can't immediately shift your attention to what to have for dinner, much less to the music of the spheres. Then, too, stimuli that you don't consciously focus on, such as a scowling face in a crowd or an unpleasant noise, can sometimes sneak into your brain and influence your behavior, albeit weakly. Nevertheless, throughout a long, grueling ordeal, I cleaved to the principle that your life is the creation of what you focus on and what you don't. Whenever possible, I looked toward whatever seemed meaningful, productive, or energizing, and away from the destructive or dispiriting. I found that I could pretty much carry on with business as usual and stay in pretty good spirits, too. No doubt partly because I was really present in the moments we shared. Kind people appeared to enjoy my seemingly sepulchral, bald-headed company. Although that year was not my easiest, neither was it the hardest. Certainly, it was my most focused. A psychological theory, your life consists of what you focus on, is one thing in your mind or on paper, and something else again when you test drive it over rough terrain. I was impressed enough to start thinking seriously about attention, not just personally, but also professionally, as someone who writes about behavior. I began with some questions. What is attention, exactly? What happens in your brain when you focus on something? Does the same process apply to thoughts and feelings as to sights and sounds? How does your characteristic way of focusing affect who you are? Why do certain things grab your attention? How come bad stuff, like the sight of a car crash or an overheard insult, is more riveting than good stuff, like pretty scenery or a direct compliment? Is the difference between common glitches, such as mind-wandering, and serious problems, such as ADHD, one of quality or quantity? How do you pay attention to something over long periods of time, as you do to your career or health? After some reporting in pursuit of answers, I learned that attention is now a hot subject in both neuroscientific and behavioral research, which increasingly reveals its importance to functions from the simplest learning to Homo sapiens' distinctive search for meaning. I found that my small-scale experiment simply illustrates what a tremendous amount of eclectic science proves. You cannot always be happy, but you can almost always be focused, which is the next best thing. As the poet says in Beowulf, every life has more than enough sadness and more than enough joy. By skillfully managing your attention,